She's so loud.
All right.
Hi,
What's
Alana.
our
Forgot. I thought it was like, I don't know. We don't really have one.
We're gonna make one.
Yeah,
With the run
I listened to it. It's fantastic.
yeah.
Okay. All right. What are we going to talk about today?
We're I'm gonna ask you how you took your first social media break recently on Sunday. I think you took two of them.
Two
So
Sundays in a row.
how did that go?
Well, wait. Before we recap how my social media breaks went, let's talk about how I was inspired by your social media breaks to take my first ones. And I'm curious, why did you start taking social media breaks to begin with?
I don't think I came up with them. I had a business mentor when I first started, probably like 2 years ago at this point. What is time? Um,
Who knows?
she was taking them, but she would like put up a post like social media fast or something and maybe only do it for a few hours at a time. And I think she did it like on weekends as well for full days. And then I got the idea from her. And then I'm very much a creature of habit and I just latch on to things. So every Sunday it kind of started, I would just not use Instagram and take social media breaks. And sometimes I'll do it for a full weekend. When I used to teach health and wellness, I would do it for a whole week to like do it with my students. And I'm pretty sure they didn't do it. And I was the only one that do it. But the reason that I kept doing it is because personally, I love it. Like I kind of hate social media. And I don't know if this is true or not. I think I lie to myself and tell myself that I need it because I have a business. I make zero money off of Instagram. I mean, part of it is a cool outlet for me to just like be artistic and creative and stuff like that. But usually when I'm not on social media, I'm so much more productive. And that feeling when you like just go to immediately reach for your phone to mindlessly scroll, I get it so often during my social media breaks, and it just makes me so much more aware and conscious of like, okay, I'm reaching for this because I'm bored or because I don't want to feel lonely right now, right? So like it really pushes you to sit with that and do something else, so you become much more intentional with your time. So long that not long story short, that was just long story. So yeah, so I started from somebody else and just kept doing it because I saw the value in it and how positively it affected me. And I like kind of wish to get to the point where I don't have it anymore. But kind of want to see what happens with my business first. And there are fun parts to it, right? So I go back and forth.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. It was so inspiring to see like your posts, which I always loved because you post Kaya, your dog, and I just love it because it's like, here's Kaya taking a social media break. Um, but when I saw you doing that, I was like, oh my God, I want to do this, but I like didn't actually have really a ton of motivation to do it. And then when you kind of like challenged me to do it, I was like, heck yeah, I'm going to do it. Now, I don't know if right now I could do it for an entire weekend, but doing it for a Sunday feels so good. And I know exactly what you mean about like kind of having more awareness of like reaching for your phone just to pick it up to open up the app because the first Sunday that I did it, I think I was so gung ho and like so excited. It was like a new shiny thing that I barely reached for my phone at all to open the app. But then the second Sunday that I did it, so last Sunday, it was
Mhm.
like I don't even know how many times throughout the day that I accidentally opened Instagram three
Yep.
different times and then immediately closed it because I was like, what am I doing? I'm taking a break. But it really does raise your awareness of how often we tend to reach for that app or just our phones and just like mindlessly open up this thing that, yes, it has a lot of positive benefits, but it's got so many downsides that I think it is like we just reach for it out of boredom, doom scrolling, seeing what other people are doing, comparing ourselves. Like part of this episode, it's talking about imposter syndrome. And I know that a lot of times on social media, because social media is a highlight reel of everyone's, the perfection that they put out into the world, we then tend to compare ourselves because we don't have this aesthetically pleasing environment, or we don't have this many followers, or this post didn't get this many likes or this many views, or we see someone doing something that we think we've always wanted to do, but maybe we actually haven't always wanted to do it. And we just see someone else doing it and we're like, do I want to do that thing? So I think the benefit of the social media breaks is tremendous on so many different levels. Like physiologically, the lower anxiety in my body was like tremendous. But then obviously, just like mentally, not comparing myself, not, thinking that I'm terrible and someone else is better than me, things like that. It's just wild how taking one day off can have so many benefits.
So you and I'm assuming you are because you're a therapist. And I know I am just because I am like I'm very self-aware. Would you say that you are too?
Exceptionally.
So I think that for us, it's very easy to say everything that you just said, right? But I think that at least when I taught students, right, and I work with mostly middle school and high school kids, you could say those things, but I don't know if they can see that directly happening.
Yeah.
So you probably could say what I'm saying, I think, a lot more clearly than I'm saying it. So I'm not even asking you a question, but like, can you expand on what I'm saying?
I think you said it so well. And I think that this is like the one of the like major benefits is that I don't work with a lot of like younger kids. I don't work with like middle schoolers. I've worked with high schoolers, but typically like older, like seniors in high school or juniors in high school. But I think you're 100% right. And you make a wonderful point is that as people who are really self-aware, we can tap into how our bodies are feeling at any given moment, or we can tap in, maybe not at any given moment, but the general day to day, we can probably tap in because we've learned how to do that, whether that's through recovery, through therapy, through our own experiences, through age. Obviously, we're not in high school. Um, but I think a lot of younger people, I think there's an added layer here of younger people probably don't take social media breaks because it's not the norm to do. And so that in and of itself would then prevent them from wanting to do it. Their friends aren't doing it. So why would they want to do it? Right. Like just kind of age appropriateness. I can't imagine a high school or middle schooler being like, yeah, I'm going to take a social media break. But there are so many benefits to it because if we could look at the way that our brain thinks when we're on social media, the amount of negative thoughts that are probably popping in are would be tremendous if we could like figure out how to write them down while we're scrolling through. All of the negativity comes rushing in. You could be having, I'll keep it on me. I could be having a fantastic day and I open social media and I see that someone, I don't know. Someone made a post that I like really would love to have been able to make, and they have 300,000 followers, and I have not 300,000 followers. The instant thought is they're way better than me. They know what they're doing, and I don't have any idea what I'm doing. Why am I even doing this? Right? That's like three thoughts that come instantaneously, but there's probably 103 thoughts that come, and it just instantly takes a toll on us. And I do think I wish that like high schoolers and middle schoolers would take these breaks. And I think it's wonderful that you even like brought this up to them. And maybe some of them did do it.
I have one who I need to talk to more of them about this because this recently occurred to me. I don't know. Oh, her and I were talking about breakfast, what like just fueling, right? And what she eats for breakfast. So we just kind of got down the conversation, and she first thing she does in the morning, and she's not alone. Like if she knows who she is and she's listening to this, I'm not singling her out because I know for a fact that probably every other girl her age and teenager does this, and boys too. first thing they do is look at their phone in the morning, right? Open the social media apps and their messages because it's their alarm. And game changer, my phone stays out here. I sleep in there. There is not a phone in there. There's an alarm clock in there that gets me out of bed. Um, but back to my point. So I was explaining what you just explained to her, and we came up with, okay, say your phone's your alarm, like that's fine. But instead of looking at it first thing in the morning, like what's something that you could do where you won't just fall right back asleep? And she said that she could stretch for 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm like, I love that. Let's do that. First thing in the morning, we're going to stretch for 5 to 10 minutes. And then we'll look at our phone. And maybe we'll get to the point where we can get an even longer period of time where we don't look at our phone. But right now, let's just start with 5, 10 minutes of stretching.
I love that. I love that. So I am someone who uses my phone as my alarm clock, but I made like a deal with myself that I will not look at social media while I'm in bed. And I'm someone who, like, if I hear my alarm clock, if I don't get up almost immediately, I will probably fall back to sleep. So I
Yep.
made a deal with myself that I cannot open any social media apps in my bed. And I have to like take the supplements I take in the morning, take the medicine that I take in the morning before I ever open up a social media app. So I like made that deal with myself and have like felt really good about it because I will typically follow that. There's days that like I'll accidentally again open it up and then I'll be like, "Oh no." And then I'll close it. But I like made that deal with myself and I also will not look at social. Oh, here's another thing that I've done with social media. I put time limits on my phone. On the iPhone, you can do that. So you can put a time limit on your phone, and I have it set for like all of my social media apps that I can only use it for like a set amount of time each day. And granted, you can override it if, like, let's say I was looking for a recipe or something and I like needed to find it, I can override it and find the recipe. But that has been a game changer to set those time limits because then that message comes up that says you've reached your time limit for the day. And that for me has been huge.
I might do that. That's a really good idea. And then Sue, I just want to add just one of the reasons why I think it's so important to wake up and not look at those messages is because earlier you were saying that you can have like those three instant negative thoughts even without realizing that you're having those thoughts or having those thoughts. But also, what I do in the morning, so first thing I do is I basically walk this dog, right? First thing we do, we walk for like about an hour or so, and it's just me and my thoughts, and it's so peaceful and no one's interrupting my peace in my brain. And I think, I don't know if we were on air or not last time, just talking about how you really value like your peace, right? And so do I, and that's so something so sacred to me. And what I'm trying to do is to figure out how to make that more appropriate language for high schoolers and middle schoolers, because I think they're at such a vulnerable stage and they don't realize how important that is for them. So I'm working on that. But then another thing too is that I've heard other fitness influencers say how like they want to make a thing where maybe before you look at your phone, you like have to do 50 push-ups or Instagram or something, right? Or I know one guy talks about having your phone attached to a kettlebell. So every time you go and pick it up, like it's this giant heavy weight, right? So there's like shit like that. And I think they're starting to come out with apps that make you do like push-ups and stuff like that before you open social media,
I love that.
right?
I love that. I think that's amazing. Oh my God. I hope that they do come out with things like that. I have not heard that, but I think that that is wonderful.
I think I saw an ad on Instagram. I didn't click it or anything. I think it's out there.
Wow.
And
I
like it
love
makes you
that.
send a video of yourself recording you doing the push-ups before you can open the thing. I'm pretty sure it's a thing. I didn't click on it, but maybe next time I will.
Probably smart. Well, it's probably smart that you didn't, because then you'd get all these targeted ads nonstop
Right.
for said app. hmm Which also feels kind of like defeats the purpose, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's amazing. When did you start leaving your phone out there in your like living room and only using an alarm clock? Because that's not a bad idea.
Oh, it's been a while. I would say during the pandemic, I think that happened. Because yeah, during the pandemic, it was just like little screen, medium screen, big screen, right? And it was just like the rotation of those. And if I stare at screens for too long, like I just, my body doesn't feel good, my brain doesn't feel good. So I think that's when it started.
I love that. I might do that. I might, I really might.
Yeah, and I'm getting bad right now at like, me and Kaya will walk in the morning, and then I will feed her and make my coffee. And then I like look at my phone immediately after that. And I'm
Mm,
just like, no, like I want to do stuff and then look at my phone. So that's where I'm currently struggling right now with it.
yeah.
Because it's so addicting. And I hate that they're so addicting. And I feel like people don't realize how addicting they are. But yeah,
Oh
they
yeah.
really are.
Oh
One
yeah.
of the things that did it for me was when I used to teach stress. And I think there was a unit on social media too. We would look at our screen time. Like I'd have all the students take out their screen time and look at it. But beyond that, you could look at the amount of time you pick up your phone in a day. And that's a crazy fucking number.
Mm,
And that just makes, oh my God, like I must check my phone when I'm bored, like all the time.
all
Like
day.
that number, I think for me, when I looked at it, was like in the upper 100s, almost 200. And it's crazy the amount that these kids, the amount of times they pick up their phones. It was like 500. It was crazy amounts. But like you pick up your phone 500 times a day. Like it's crazy.
That is so interesting. I don't know if I've looked at screen time because it gives me like a weekly report of like, this is how much screen time you've had. And I'm like, wow, that's horrifying. But I would love to look at like the amount that I pick it up. Now, granted, I use my phone for business. So obviously,
Sure.
like I have to pick up my phone to like make phone calls to my clients and stuff, but
Mhm.
I would love to see that number.
Yeah, it's like I'll go. My screen time's been pretty bad lately. I used to be like at an hour, and I think it's back up to like 2 hours. I want to get it back down. But if I go to settings and then I click screen time, my graphy thing comes up, and then I'm gonna click the graphy thing. Um, oh, my first pickup was at 7:09 a.m. and my total pickup was 120. So I went to settings, I
Yep.
clicked on the graph where it says see all app and website activity, and then I just scroll down a little bit and you can see your first pickup and your total pickups.
Wait, how many pickups have you had today?
Today I had 20, but
Okay,
it's 2 hours later
I've
here.
had 28. Wait, what is your screen time?
Right now, my average, I think it just said 2 hours, 2 hours, 10 minutes. What's yours, Jen?
I don't even want to admit it. I don't even want to. My daily, granted,
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh my God, this is terrible. My daily average of screen time is 8 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, so I like so with me, like when mine wasn't that high ever, but the amount of high that it was, I always think to myself like, "Oh, I wish I had more time to do this shit," right? And
Yep.
like, boom, I just got 2 hours back of my day. Like, think of all the shit that we could do. Like, I could fucking be doing backflips and 10-second handstands, but right? Um,
Yes.
I just think of all the stuff that I could be doing if I had those hours back. But what I did find when I took like a whole week break last semester was that there's a lot of other things to be distracted by. Like I will get distracted by other things if it's not my phone, right? So there is that issue. But the phone is just very highly addictive. But I know just from teaching a bunch of hacks you could do. Like my phone used to be in grayscale for a little bit, which makes Instagram so boring and sad. Like you just don't want to be on it. But your camera is in black and white. So like you can't see Kaya's two different colored eyes or how pretty she really is. It's like that was annoying. So I always
Yeah,
put it back into color after a while. But there's things like that that you can do to make your phone less addicting.
I love that. Something I do automatic, well, I don't do it. My phone automatically does it because I programmed it like this is well, first of all, at 9 p.m. every night, it goes on do not disturb and like sleep. So it also changes the display to be on like that night mode orangey. So instead of having like a blue tint to the screen, which is what like stimulates our brain to like want to be awake and want to be engaged, it turns everything more orange. And so it doesn't necessarily put like as much strain on your eyes. It doesn't necessarily like keep you awake. So my phone automatically does that. And I always have it on dark mode because I have migraines. And so everything's always on dark mode.
Yeah, mine's on dark mode too often. Or
Yeah.
not all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. This was actually longer than I anticipated it being.
I know. Same. And I feel like there's even more places we could go with it. So should we just keep going?
Yes, I think
Uh,
we should. Tell me what your thoughts are on where we could go with this, because I do think that social media is a huge topic.
yeah, I think that we gave a few things you can do to make it less addicting. So we could go more that route. But then I think it also just might be a good idea to use your expertise and kind of just talk more about how it affects the brain. And I will say this, and we're gonna have to edit all this, but just so it's like in a linear order, or maybe not. I'll see what it sounds like. But I've seen reels, and they're probably not like actually factual because there's no way we could have studied this yet. But I've seen reels that will show like a group of boys or girls and they're all on their phones. It's like a team, right? So there's like a bunch of boys and girls on their phones, and there's one or two kids not on their phone. And then they'll show the same players in a game setting. And the ones who are not on their phone are just like absolutely crushing it. And there probably isn't research on that, but it just makes so much sense to me that if you're not on your phone before you play a game, like an athletic game or just anything, honestly, like I'm sure for you, like before you see a client, right, it affects how you go into that client session. And I had another thought too I was gonna say there, but I forgot it. So do you have anything to add on that?
I I hope that there are studies on that. I would imagine, I mean, social media has been around. Facebook's been around. Well, MySpace was around before that. I don't know if that was even considered social media or not, but Facebook's been around since like 2003, 2004, because I remember my sister when Facebook was only for college students, and my
Yeah.
sister graduated high school in '04. And I was like, I want to be on Facebook. So Facebook's been around for a long time. I would imagine there are possibly studies out there. That's like a decent enough time to make a longitudinal study about like a study done over a longer period of time about the effects and the impacts of social media on performance, whether that's sports performance, work performance, school performance. I think all in all, it's this idea of like not being present. And when we're
Yeah.
not present, it's really hard to perform to our peak ability, right? And so that could be someone in a game. Like if you're on your phone prior to the game, you're not present in the moment of like getting into the mindset needed for that game. You obviously know way more about that than I do. But even in like our adult lives, I know, like you said, like if I'm on my phone prior to seeing a client, I'm not necessarily as present, nor am I as then prepared to meet with that client. I could review their notes from the prior sessions. I could review their treatment plan from the prior sessions. But if I'm on my phone prior to it, then I'm kind of going in more blank than if I had spent that time using that time to like review something about the client or about what we had recently talked about. So I absolutely think I mean, I'd be curious, and now I probably will go look to see if there are studies on this.
Yeah, I might follow up with you on it because I'm not gonna look, but I'm curious. I don't know why I know I'm not gonna look, but I'm not gonna look.
I
But I
love that honesty. I love the honesty. I don't like when people are like, "Oh, I'll do that too," and then you're like, "Are you gonna do it? Like, let me do it. I'll do it." I love looking that stuff up.
Well, yeah, no, I'm someone who, like, if I say something, I'm gonna do that, and I stick by that almost too much where it gets me into trouble.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I'll follow up with you. That I 100% will do.
Oh
But the
yeah.
other thing too is I may have talked about this last time. The women's soccer league that I joined, that's been like so much fun. I will notice if I check my phone during halftime, second half I suck. I'm just not in my head, and I just like I can't. I don't even know 100% like the thoughts I'm having. Like I'm just not aware of what's exactly going on. I just will notice that okay, first half I crushed it, and then second half I just was not present. Like you were saying, like that's it. I'm just not present. My head's not in the game. So yeah, I definitely recently had firsthand experience with that, and I can't, like I said, I can't explain to you 100% what's going on. I just know that first half, crush it. I have a whole little pregame routine that I got myself into doing. And then second half, if I check my phone during halftime, like I just absolutely, I mean, I don't suck, but I was not as good as the first half.
Yeah. Well, even as you were talking about that, the thing that came to mind for me is when I watch professional sports, when people are not actively playing, you don't see them on the sidelines checking their phones. Like when I watch the Yankees play, they're not sitting in the dugout with their phones like this. They're present watching their other players. When you watch football, people on the sidelines are not on their phones. Like maybe the quarterback checks the freaking iPad that, a staff member brings to them, but they're not checking social media, right? They're like staying in the game. They're present there. Like you don't see golfers, I don't think. I mean, I don't watch golf, but I would imagine you probably don't see people playing golf, scrolling on their phones because I would imagine the mindset of a professional athlete, let alone like a student athlete, needs to be we're staying present in the game. Like when we're
Mhm.
playing, we're playing. We're not like picking up these devices because they can so quickly shift our mindset into I'm not good enough. Someone's better than me. I'm distracted by like what's going on, with other things. If someone sent me a message that I'm upset about or something like that immediately takes you out of your brain and your body. And then of course you're not going to play as well.
Yeah, and it's not even all negative things too. Like I remember one game, I checked my phone and the only message that I got was a picture of my entire family was at the Giants game. And I don't like football. And like I'm a big introvert and they do a whole tailgate for one game a season. And it's really cool. I just went to it one year and I'm just like, this is not for me. I'm not gonna come back to this. Right. But there was like all the my brother, my sister, my niece, my nephew, my mom, and my dad. There was an adorable picture I got of all of them in like giant stuff. And it was absolutely adorable. But it took me out of the game, right? So
Yes.
then I went back second half and I just wasn't as good because I mean, it's probably a little bit of FOMO, even though I didn't want to be there anyway. Um, but yeah, so with what you're saying, like it's not necessarily all negative things. It's just the whole out of presence thing. And then another thought that I did have though is just like this stuff isn't all bad because you and I probably wouldn't have reconnected, right? For
Totally.
instance. So I think like that's an important thing to mention because just being a prior teacher and someone that works with kids, yes, these things aren't all bad and there are positives, but it's like figuring out your relationship with it in a healthy way.
Yes. Yes, 100%. And I am so glad that you said that because, yes, you're 100% correct. This stuff is not all bad. There are so many huge positive benefits to social media, connecting with people that you haven't talked to in, decades or whatnot, right? Like even connecting with people who live on the other side of the country as you or on the other side of the world as you, like the ability to communicate via social media is wonderful. The ability to like see what other people are up to. But I think it can so quickly turn. And listen, I'm someone who uses social media every day in my personal life, in my business. Like I use it all the time, as evidenced by my screen time being absolutely outrageous. So this is not like a hypocritical thing. This is not saying like you guys should not use social media because like we do use it also. But I think it can so quickly, like with anything that can slip into addiction, it can happen so fast and it happens like so quietly. right? Where like you don't always realize it's happening. And like I know for me, sometimes social media can be highly addicting, as evidenced by taking a social media break and then picking up my phone and not even consciously being aware I am opening that app when I'm on a break and having to like quickly close it and be like, oh shit, I'm taking a break. Like that to me says I am addicted to using it.
Yeah, I had a student once tell me they were doing the social media break thing, I think for a weekend or something. And she told me that when she wasn't checking it, right? And let's say her phone was in her pocket and she knew that she was on a break and she couldn't check it, she would have FOMO and she was anxious. So she felt better when she was on it because she didn't have that FOMO, right? And I wanted to say at the time, like, well, that's kind of addiction in a nutshell. But I didn't say it because at the time it was just I was caught off guard and I didn't know how to say that without being like you just described addiction and like I was scared they were going to ask how do I know that and I was like well I can't tell you I'm an addict but like you're describing my relationship with alcohol when I got sober
Yep.
basically. So yeah, I feel like again I'm not saying that super clearly but you're nodding along and I feel like you could again make that sound better.
Yeah. No, no, Alana, you literally made that sound exactly as it is. What you probably the thing about this that I've learned over the years, and like maybe this is just like my own stuff that I've learned over the years. Addiction is such a common topic that is discussed now, and almost every single person on this planet knows someone or has experience with addiction. So even when you bring something like that up to one of your athletes or students, and they might say, well, how do you know about that? Addiction is so well studied, and
Yeah,
everyone knows someone who has either a personal history or they know of someone who has a family member. Like, it's not the most, and I understand what you're saying because when I first got clean, I was definitely more hesitant to like say things because I didn't want to necessarily put it out there that I was in recovery. But I think today it's like so easy to be like, Google it, you know? Go online and Google it. Like anybody can find these things out, you know?
that's so funny and I feel like too I mean I have to go soon so we're not going to talk about imposter syndrome today but that could be such a good transition into it because yeah since then I think I was fairly new at that time to teaching and just didn't know how to walk that line and I've since have said like I know somebody right that's been a helpful line for me and also that was just weird because I was not weird but I was working for a school so I just felt weird crossing that line. But now that I don't work at that school, like I'm pretty sure, like I post about it on social media sometimes and this is coming out. So like my clients are gonna know, right? I'm much more comfortable with that line, not having the school affiliation there, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes total sense. And I do understand that. What a great episode today, in my humble, not so humble opinion.
What does that mean?
I just think it was so good. I think there is so much more to this than either one of us anticipated.
Yeah, I think so too. Cause I think, I mean, when one thing I was thinking as we were talking about this is like, who is our audience? Because I think there's ways we can talk about this. I think we did probably a better job appealing to like adults, but I also think that there's a piece of this when we talk about social media is like, how do we get that to connect with kids? Because I don't think they 100% understand because they're not conscious of, like we were saying, like getting out of your bodies and those negative thoughts that just come and you're not even aware of them.
Hmm.
So that was kind of something I was thinking of, but I also think that you're right. We probably, I think, as I'm reflecting, did a good job doing both of those things.
I think so too. I think that's the benefit of like me working with mostly adults and you working with a lot of like younger people, a lot of like students, teenagers. I think that's a really cool balance because I think that you can be like or we can do this for each other, be like a checks and balance of like, well, that makes a lot of sense probably for adults, but how do we like make it so that it's a little bit more like digestible for kids?
Yeah, and also too, isn't there a saying like if you could explain it to a kid, then you're good to go? Like you get
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Hmm. This was so great. Happy Friday.
Yeah, you too. I feel like there could definitely be a social media too episode.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe on like whatever studies I find.
Ooh, I love it. Do you have any like closing remarks on social media before we hit not record?
I'm gonna take a break on Sunday.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful for those breaks. I feel like they are really helpful for me mentally in my anxiety. So I love these breaks and I'm so appreciative that you inspired me and that someone inspired you to do it.
I'm so happy that you're doing it because I feel like I've been posting and no one's been joining me. And I've kind of been like, why isn't anybody doing this? It's the best thing ever. And I'm so happy that somebody else knows that it's the best thing ever.
It really is. It's literally the best thing ever.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Do
All right.
you, I never see it since I'm taking a break, but do you like do what I do and kind of post your cats or your fiance or I don't know what's important to you or like the
Both of
mountains?
those, all of those things are very important to me. No, I did not. Maybe I'll do that this week.
Did you just like break? Like, what did you do? Did you announce it? Because that's another thing too. Like sometimes I just don't even announce it, but I do want to inspire others. So I kind of go back and forth between, okay, do I post this week or do I just do it and not tell anybody? Like I do
I
both.
I reposted your like challenge to me to do
Okay.
it. But maybe I'll like post it and I'll be like, see you Monday, like you do. I love that you do that. And you're like, see you Monday.
Yeah. Because I feel like if you do it, then more people will see it and then we could get more people to join us.
You have more followers than me. Who do you think is?
Not on your like your other one though.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that.
And yours is like brand new. So
I know it's brand new and I got a lot of male followers, which no offense, but that's not my target audience and I don't want that. So somehow the algorithm's going to need to change.
oh man.
All right. Well, stay tuned for our next episode.